Hi, in this tutorial we're going to go over how I made the dynamic screen blueprints. Dynamic screens are the screens that come on and off as you need them. There are two of them based on the same blueprint. The difference is that this A version here does not have B checked on, and vice versa is true. This B version has B version checked on. Let's open up the blueprint. Starting from the top, we have at event begin play, we decide which set of parameters are we going to decide for which thing. That is to say, if it is B, as in if it is going to be this version of this, as opposed to this one, it's going to use the B version of the media player, the B version of the checkered media player, and the B versions of those textures as well. And if not, then it'll revert to the A versions. This way, when you press wipe on and it controls the media player, it doesn't control this media player also. Without that, right, and we press play again, that means if we press wipe on for one, they both go on, and wipe off, they would both go off. And that's not good because we want to control them separately. So that's why we have that B check mark. If we go back to this is all gets set at event begin play because we're only going to be needing two. Then the two buttons, wipe on and wipe off. Let's start with wipe on. Wipe on is a custom event. The way you make custom events is by right-clicking and searching custom event. You can name it anything you want. And this event can be called from anything. We call it from Porta, and we call it from remote control, but also if you click on this, you'll notice here you can call it in editor. That's what allows us to have these buttons here. Then we go on to a sequence, which does multiple things at the same time. The first thing it'll do is play sounds. Then, it'll set the rotation of the checkered square, or the checkered plane. That's because in this rotation is for the animation going forward, and we need to flip it around like this for the animation to go backwards. It's easier done in the blueprint. Then, after it flips them, it then plays that checkered media player. The checkered media player looks like this. After it's done playing, the next thing it does is wait about 3 seconds, so that way this next section starts in the middle of the checker, as the reference stated. Here, there are a couple of custom things. The first thing is this enumeration. And an enumeration is effectively a list. It's a little list that Unreal can use to decide which thing it should do. If we click on this variable, it'll show us that it's an enumeration wipe type. That can be found in virtual set blueprints enumeration. One sec, let me find it real quick. Wipe type. No, you can always just search for it. There you go, wipe type. That's actually inside PNG sequence. In here, you can add as many as you want or take it away, but all they do are just different routes for something to go to. Usually, enumerations are used here with a switch. In Unreal, you can switch on lots of things. That includes switching on different kinds of animations, switching on lots of enumerations, switching on strings, or switching on floats. And that way, when something goes in, it then goes to the next thing. The idea here is that when you press wipe on, it'll switch based on this enumeration type, which is public. You can see the eye here. And then, based on what you chose already, it'll then go down a specific route. So, if we chose replay, it would go down the replay route, following this, opening the media player for the replay specifically, then waiting just about 0.6 seconds for then the screen behind it to become visible. That's what's going down here. First you open it, play, then in the middle of this sequence, it then makes that screen visible. If we check the wipe off, it's the same stuff, but in reverse. So here, we first play the sound, then we do the exact same wipe with the exact same stuff here, but this time at the end we make the screen hidden after waiting 0.5 seconds. And then the last step in wipe off is the same thing. We rotate the checker in the other direction and then play the checker. And so that way your result looks like wipe on, wipe off. The reason this is still on is because we were playing with the media player beforehand. If you wipe off, it'll fix itself. And if you wipe on, it'll fix itself again. If we choose a different one, like logo, we choose Horize, what will happen is that we clicked Horize, then when we press wipe on, they go down this line, switch on Horize, and then go down this line again. And that's how we're able to go off and on. I also split them up into comments so we know what's happening here. Last thing to look at is update source. The idea here is that you can use these screens to either have a Porta provided media that we can look at like here, and that's what it would look like, or you can switch from media to a live input by going to live and then set source. And that changes these to live versions of that. The idea here is that we're changing from one texture to another texture actually. One texture comes from Porta, the other texture is actually here. So if we check down this line, we'll see that this is doing a couple things. First, like this switch here, we're doing another even simpler switch based on selection type, whether that's going to be media or live. If it's media, for instance, what it'll do is talk to a specific material parameter collection, which we'll go over in a second, and set a specific value to 0. Then it'll go to the screen and set the Porta texture that comes down. Porta will talk to this guy specifically. If we choose live, it'll go to that material parameter collection and set it to 1. If we check out the material parameter collection, we'll see that it's not very complicated. This material parameter collection is a kind of variable that can be used in any place, including sequences and especially materials, of course. Porta or live DS stands for dynamic screen. If we check the material this uses in screen, we'll see that, let me just end play first. It has 2 actual inputs here. This live input, which uses a special texture that is always live, and a Porta texture. That 0 to 1 here actually changes a lerp value. That lerp value, let's take a look at this here, in the main material is Porta live is the alpha between using this and using this. If it's at 1, it'll use this. If it's at 0, it'll use this. If it's at 0.5, it'll use a mix of the both, which you wouldn't really want. And that's how we're able to update the source here.